Here we are. Spider-Man is back. Again. With a whole season. Again. Because it's Spider-Man Brand New Day. And it means a brand new season, and it means a brand new set of cards. Starting with Spider-Man Brand New Day. 1 cost, 2 power. You can move this thing twice. And then one of those cards are going to get +1 power. It's cool. But I don't think it's as 5-star busted as people expected it to be based on my initial testing. I think it's really good. Let me be really clear with that. I think it is really good. It is easily a 4-star card. It is good. But it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky to get the timing right. It's only the first 24 hours, you know. I'm coming out with this video late because I started late. And then I had mild testing yesterday. I wanted to test all 3 cards. So we're going to go through Spider-Man Brand New Day, Aunt May, and Mary Jane, where they work together, where they don't work together, synergies that I liked, didn't like, etc. Because it's impossible for me to tell you what cards are going to be meta within the first 24 hours. I do think Spider-Man Brand New Day is very plug and play, absolutely plug and play. But outside of that, you're trying to figure out what's the most optimal synergy. And it's similar to like trying to think about what's the most optimal synergy for Nightcrawler. It's not. It's just there's better scenarios than others, right? That's the best way to look at it. As Harvey thinks that he's currently stuck on the shelf of my nightstand, currently in the other room. So it's funny. So I really like this card. It has a variety of different homes and not just move. You're not going to be surprised by one of them. I have to bring in both Mary Jane and Aunt May into the conversation to talk about them because a lot of their synergies overlap, right? With other cards. So Mary Jane is a 3 cost, 3 power card. End of turn. Give each of your cards that move to this turn +1 power. So I started experimenting with just generic plug into move in general, and then also went a little bit further into like the end of turn style moves, which we'll talk about. But overall, I felt that this card is you have to have Venus to make this work card. And that almost feels bad. I'll explain why. Aunt May, on the other hand, is a 2 cost, 3 power card. I hear you, Harvey. I know. You're not stuck. You can come on down and join us. We're over here. Come on, Harvey. As Ackless raids on in, thank you so much. We're doing a live recording right now. 2/3, end of turn. If you used a movable ability, give a movable card in your hand, -1 cost and +2 power. Now, there are some things we have to confirm with this so that way you understand. There are 3 categories of the word move that are relevant. Exactly, Harvey. 1, a card moves. It performs the action of moving. 2, a card has a movable attribute, either temporarily or permanently. 3, a card has the word movable in it and is a card that is movable. So for example, something that moves. Let's say you ghost spider something over. That card that went from one location to the other, that is not a movable ability. Let's say you have on the board a Madam Web and something in that lane. Madam Web gives the movable ability to other pieces. That's relevant. Harvey's really stuck, and it's really funny. It's like, taxi, go get him. Where's Harvey? I think he's actually stuck. He's whining a different whine. Hold, please. He was actually stuck. Legitimately. We'll talk about that on another stream. So, a card that moves like that, where it has the movable attribute from something like a Madam Web, or something like Hellion, or something like Cloak, right? That makes a card have a movable attribute to be used. That is using a movable ability. However, the target of the reduction is a much smaller pool of cards. Those are cards that have movable built into their name. Those are your Nocturne, Vision, Spider-Punk, Nightcrawler. You get the idea. You can move them. That's huge. To understand the difference of where that is, when that does that, and when that thing happens. For that reason alone, Aunt May is not a good card. Not because the card is confusing. No, not also Web Sling. No. But the card itself has much more limited targets than it does triggers. And as a end of turn trigger, you want this to happen several times. But the amount of targets that have movable on them are incredibly low comparatively, yet alone they're of low value to you because you want to have them in your hand, get the reduction, put them down on the board, and then still move them. That's the whole problem with this card. It's a end of turn movable problem that I honestly think is straight up too slow. I think this is a 1-cost card in the future. Go ahead, Harvey. Good luck. Tune in next week to see what happened to Harvey. Like and subscribe in the meanwhile. Now, how do they all work together? Of course, you've got, Spider-Man Brand New Day, who has movable in his ability. When something moves, Mary Jane's going to give that thing at the end of the turn +1 power. If it's something with a movable ability in your hand and movable work and was used, great. You get reductions in your hand for very select things. Very select things. So, out of all of the decks, I tried 8 different decks over the last 2 days. I gotta say pretty confidently, it was a very obvious tale of 2 cities. Okay? At least to me, it seemed very obvious. So let's talk about the decks. So we got a variety of different things that worked really well and a variety of different things that immediately were noticeably bad. Bad. Let's go down to the bottom here. Right away, I went 1 and 4, and I started messing around with this, like, hey, it's just got a bunch of things that have movable in it. Even if I've swapped Hellion out for Vision, I'll tell you right now, this deck sucked. Because it felt incredibly clunky, like there was no linear game plan. This one did not work. On the other end of the spectrum, when I started having the ability to tech points in different locations, and specifically have Profex, Luna Snow, Negasonic. This trio right here to let all of the little guys do all of the little things, this felt really good. Felt really good. It's probably in need to be optimized a little bit further. I wouldn't be surprised if Jeff gets cut for something else in the future. Maybe another tech card. But even with that happening, there's a lot of movement. There's a lot of reallocation. I loved going Luna Snow on 3 into Profex on 4 into Web Sling in the Profex lane on 5. That was really fun because then you really had this extra element of confusion that went on the board. Did thoroughly enjoy this deck. Jeff is probably the biggest question mark, but everything else is pretty as is. I would not do anything besides Luna Snow in this position for the energy ramp, and she is only here to help you get 6 on 5 or Professor X on 4. That is all she is here for, and it's good enough as is. You don't have to mess around with that. I tried doing some other synergy pieces here where I was able to play Mary Jane, Aunt May, and Spider-Man Brand New Day all in the same deck. What happened here is what happened here. All 3 of them in the same deck did not work. It's too little too late. And I have cards at scale. I've got my Kraven. I've got a 1/6 Miles Morales to work with. I've got a Hydra Stomper. I've got a Sam Wilson. I got a Batrick. And whenever all 3 of them were together, it felt like they didn't belong together. It felt like it was too clunky. The play lines didn't make sense. The reductions that you want to get from Aunt May onto your Nocturne make no sense. Or to get down a free Spider-Man for a free 0/4 doesn't make sense. The game plan doesn't work. Aunt May is a big hindrance. And I hate to say that. Mary Jane, on the other hand, is not a big hindrance. She's a card you have to build around a lot more, though, versus Spider-Man Brand New Day, as you can see, because you should not be surprised in any capacity, way, shape, or form that the Mother Ascani Captain Carter combo stick shenanigans was really good. And again, this is another list that is not completely optimized. I ran 3 1-drops Grandmaster into a Storm variation with no Silver Surfer, and I went 17-8. That's me. Me. That should be saying enough for you. But honestly, I might try this again just without Storm. I might try it again without Storm and put in Surfer and go again, because it was really good. Like, having the flexibility of Spider-Man Brand New Day as your Nightcrawler and then Web Sling moving around. Yeah, this felt really good to have all those 1-drops, freeing board space, trigger Hope, move Hope even. Like, that was quite fun. I really enjoyed this deck. Vina Jane. So I tried to do as small ball as possible. I can confidently say I went too small because I have only 2 1s, an ungodly amount of 2s, and then Mary Jane, Venus, and Elsa. Now, to be clear, it looks like a good trio, the 3 ladies here. It looks like a good trio, but it's a clunky trio. You need 2 out of the 3, and that defines everything else about the rest of the deck. Pick 2, don't pick 3. I tried also doing some bounce shenanigans. Now, I broke even 10-10, and there is going to be a version of this that does absolutely break the meta. I'm going to be really obviously clear about that. I'm not the best move bounce player, but a good move bounce player with access to cards like Spider-Man Brand New Day and Web Sling are going to go crazy with this. I had some games where, I mean, the Lindleys always go crazy as is, but I feel like there's some real stupid things that can happen in this deck. I'm just not the right pilot for it, and I know that. But I do know that it is really good. Like, it is good. I'm just not good at it. So if you're a high-end player, start messing around with move bounce with new Spider-Man Brand New Day. Do it. The last 2, we'll talk about this one last specifically. May Doesn't Want to Move was me trying Spider-Man and Aunt May. And again, we have a deck that says, listen, you've got Vision in here, you've got Nocturne in here, you've got Mercury in here, you have 3 cost or higher movable cards that want to get reduced via Aunt May. The problem is you're really heavily dependent on Aunt May having either Spider-Man Brand New Day, Nightcrawler, or Madam Web down by turn 2, and then you wanting to move them to play Aunt May on turn 3 and hit something in your hand. And it just felt incredibly clunky. It really felt awful. And there's good things happening in this deck. Like, I am going to go back to the Mercury Cannonball combo again with this. I'm probably leaning a little differently into it, though. I have to really think on it, but Rogue won me probably 3 out of these 4 games. Between removing Madam Webs and removing Hydra Stompers, 3 out of the 4 games that I won were because of Rogue. So keep an eye on Rogue this season because her popularity is going to shoot up. But let's talk specifically about Jane Bob here, because Jane Bob has probably the highest potential for breaking the meta. In my opinion, this is a deck that is the closest to something that anybody can pilot, play, and have crazy amount of points on using the new cards. It is only using Spider-Man Brand New Day and Mary Jane. It is not using Aunt May. Now, the other portion to this that's really, like, critical. Whoops. As it freaks out on me. There we go. We'll go over here. The other portion to this that's critical is you have to remember you are an Invisible Woman First Steps deck first and foremost. As long as you remember that, you're fine. But the reason this deck works is because of unknown power. Drax's unknown power. Nightcrawler's unknown power. Spider-Man Brand New Day presents extra power, but it's also still unknown. And we've seen Venus, Invisible Woman First Steps be successful. We've seen the point totals be pretty darn good, to say the least, and very surprising. What this deck is missing, though, is one more lane winner. So this deck went, 17 and 13. It did average. But it was hands down the closest thing to being something that I could look at and play and say, this is a meta style deck. And the solution to that is Fantasticar. Fantasticar has to be cut. It has to be replaced with Iska. And then the last piece to this that I'm still debating about is Hydra Bob. Because with Hydra Bob, what I want to do is replace it with Web Sling. That's huge. Web Sling having the ability, and I know you're going to say Marvel Boy needs 3 targets. He doesn't really, though. Because the whole point is you want cards moving for Mary Jane. It doesn't have to be Bob with a snap and get the move to happen. It doesn't have to be that. It could be anything else. Any other card that's not a part of what we'll call the stack that you're building, you can do that. You can take out Drax if you want, but I actually really liked having Drax in here as a little protection piece, but probably would be better as Prodigy, not gonna lie. This deck, this shell of mixing end of turn and movement is where I think you're going to absolutely focus the most out of Spider-Man Brand New Day and Mary Jane. Now, remember, you are fragile. Just like every other deck right now. Every other deck in an unknown meta is incredibly fragile. There's a lot happening. There's going to be, by the end of the week, an ungodly amount of Shadow King, an ungodly amount of Rogue, and an ungodly amount of Mercury. It's going to happen. But if you're watching this and you're looking for alternate ways to kind of get around a bunch of that, I think this is probably going to be your best bet, is something in this shell. Unless if you just want to be that guy, and just say, really, it's okay, just play this. I want you to try other things. I want you to do other things. There are good decks that you can make with these cards, but it all comes down to, are they actually good or garbage? So when talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day, I'm going to call him good. I think he is definitely a good card. He is a card worth investing in, and a card that will see a lot of play in a lot of decks. Aunt May, garbage. Absolutely garbage. Do not think it's a good card. Lastly, Mary Jane. I am going to say it's a good card. It's niche, but it is a good card. So we have the whole spectrum here in the first week. Remember that time I told you to like and subscribe? I do. I just hope you do, because if you remember, then I remember, and because I see it, and then that's always a good thing. So I appreciate you. Very much so. And y'all, I can't wait for some of the things happening in Marvel Snap that I can't talk about. Stay tuned for more.